Alexander Reed had spent his entire life believing that money solved everything, that success could drown out loneliness, and that the walls of his grand mansion were enough to separate him from the pain of the world. But all of that changed the night he rushed back home to retrieve the laptop he had forgotten before an urgent business meeting. It was almost midnight, and the mansion was supposed to be empty except for the temporary nurse he had recently hired to look after his son, Liam, a 5-year-old boy who had barely smiled since Alexander's wife passed away 2 years earlier. Alexander lived like a ghost in his own home, drifting through rooms without noticing the fading laughter on the walls, the untouched toys in corners, and the quiet ache in his little boy's eyes. He believed providing luxury was enough, that hiring the best people meant he could bury himself in work and avoid the bleeding wound in his heart. But the moment he pushed open the heavy front door and stepped into the dimly lit living room, his eyes froze and his breath caught in his throat. There, on the gray couch, illuminated softly by the warm glow of the ceiling lights, was a sight that sent a shockwave through his chest. The young nurse, Emily, barely 24, humble, gentle, compassionate, was sitting upright, completely exhausted, her head resting slightly on the cushions, fast asleep. And wrapped tightly in her arms, with his cheek pressed against her chest as if he had finally found safety, was little Liam. The boy who wouldn't let anyone hold him. The boy who hadn't slept peacefully in months. The boy who flinched at affection, yet here he was, clinging to Emily as though she were the only light left in his small world. Alexander's laptop slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a dull thud, but neither of them stirred. His eyes widened in disbelief, not just at the scene itself, but at the overwhelming tenderness radiating from it. Emily's hand rested protectively on Liam's back, and even in sleep, she held him like someone who cared far beyond duty, far beyond a paycheck. The millionaire stood frozen, guilt rising in his stomach like a tide he could no longer control. How had he missed this? How had he failed to see what his own son needed? He remembered Emily's first day, how she had nervously explained her past, growing up with nothing, working double shifts, studying nursing at night, taking any job that helped her support her sick mother. He had hired her with the coldness of a businessman, not the warmth of a father. Now, watching her hold his son as though he were her own, Alexander felt something inside him fracture. He slowly stepped closer, silently, afraid to disturb the fragile peace before him. Every detail hit him like a punch to the heart, the way Liam's tiny hand gripped Emily's uniform, trembling slightly as if afraid she might disappear, the soft rise and fall of their breathing in perfect sync, the faint smile on Emily's lips, the first he had ever seen since she started working in his home. Alexander knelt beside the couch, staring at his son's face. The last time Liam had slept peacefully like this was when his mother was alive. Emily had done what he, with all his wealth, power, and influence, could not. She had given his boy something priceless: comfort, love, a safe place to rest. His throat tightened uncontrollably as he realized how deeply he had failed, not as a millionaire, not as a CEO, but as a father. He gently reached out, intending to adjust the blanket around them, but suddenly Emily stirred, opening her eyes halfway. The moment she realized Alexander was standing over them, she shot upright, panicked and apologizing rapidly, trying to detach Liam from her without waking him. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to fall asleep. He was crying for hours. He wouldn't let go. I was trying to calm him. Please don't fire me. I know this looks unprofessional. But Alexander lifted a trembling hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Emily," he whispered, voice filled with an emotion he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years, "you've done more for my son in one night than I have done in 2 years." Emily blinked, confused. "Sir, you didn't do anything wrong," he said, staring at the sleeping boy. "I'm the one who has." His voice cracked slightly, and he didn't care if she heard it. For the first time, he wasn't speaking like a CEO, he was speaking like a broken man who finally realized the truth. Emily's eyes softened, and she gently adjusted Liam back into her arms. "He misses you, sir," she said quietly. "He wants you more than anything." Alexander felt the words stab deep into his chest. He sat slowly on the edge of the couch, placing a hand on his son's tiny arm. I don't know how to be what he needs, he admitted, barely holding himself together. No one teaches you how to handle loss, not when you're a child, and not even when you're an adult. Emily looked at him with surprising courage for someone so young. You don't need to be perfect, she whispered. Just be here. The silence that filled the room wasn't empty, it was healing, slow, and fragile. Alexander watched his son breathing softly in Emily's arms, and something inside him shifted forever. Maybe this wasn't just about a forgotten laptop. Maybe this was the universe forcing him to stop running, to finally look at the truth he had buried under work and meetings and endless excuses. He wiped a tear he didn't realize had fallen and whispered, "Emily, thank you." She smiled shyly. He's a good kid. He just needs someone to show him he's loved. Alexander swallowed a lump in his throat. Maybe we both do. Hours later, instead of rushing back to work, instead of ignoring his heart yet again, Alexander canceled his meeting, sat beside Emily and Liam, and stayed, really stayed, for the first time. He didn't know what the future would look like, but he knew one thing: tonight had changed everything. And as the three of them rested quietly together on that couch, something magical happened that money could never buy. A family began to heal. If you want more powerful emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support inspires us to bring you more unforgettable content.